Hi YouTube, welcome back. Some time ago I did the last video about the Max or the Maxsym 600i. I received some requests to do other videos, so here I am. I did a number of things on Max and I would like to report on the latest developments. I learned a few things and yeah, stay tuned because I have a few things to say. Just a second. Alright, first things first. 17,255 kilometers. Today is, I think, the 4th or the 5th of October 2019. So Max has now something like 1.5 years or something like that. I can check it out for you. I will check it out for you. Well, not even that. It is has been bought on 30 August 2018. So it has, let's see, August, September, October, it has something like 13 months and it has already traveled 17,500 kilometers. So quite a lot of roads, usual stuff, nothing new, a lot of highway, city, intercity traffic, all weathers, never stopped. I literally used it basically every single day from the time I bought it, with a little exception when I was on holiday. So it is, it has been heavily used. Beautiful day today. We are lucky, so I have some sun to show you Max in all his beauty. So last time we discussed something which was about the windscreen. So I basically put it, take it out again, put it again on the high position. Because I discovered that it was better like that. So I dismounted the screen, I think 3 times in total. Really easy. If you know what you're doing and it is not difficult, you can do it yourself in very little time with very little effort. Really easy. Since unfortunately the winter is coming, I had to put back the muffs, which are looking like horrible as usual. But as you have seen on a previous video of mine, those muffs are working really well and they are helping a lot with both cold and rain. They keep my hands warm and dry, which helps with safety and also helps a lot with the overall comfort of riding. So despite the fact that I would like not to use them, I must say they really help a lot. Brakes are still performing very well. The suspensions are still performing as usual, which means more than decently. Paint is okay. There is nothing wrong with that. After 1 year in the open, I must say it is keeping up pretty nicely. Suspensions are doing well. Rear brakes are doing all right. Nothing strange on the exhaust. Yeah, I mean, it's saddle is fine. Really nothing wrong with that. It's dirty, but that's logical. So yeah, it's holding up really nicely. There is nothing that suggests this scooter is weak in any way, shape or form. And all its components, despite the very intensive usage, has been holding up pretty well. So what did I do to Max in terms of maintenance? I did 2 oil changes and filter changes. I did 1 air filter change. I did 2 fill-ups of the cooling liquid, the screen as you saw, and I changed the drive belt. I did it myself, as I was hoping I was able to do. But let's start with the first things. Oil change, very simple. There is nothing you need to worry about. It's just a question of using the normal elementary safety measures. Just, you know, be careful what you're doing. Do not overfill. Do not spill oil outside. All this usual stuff, you know. But you can easily do it yourself. For what concerns the air filter, I have some information for you. First of all, the air filter can be a bit annoying when inserting and taking out. There is, I think I told you last time, or a couple of times ago, there is a kind of rubber construction around it that you have to take out, and then you have to put the new air filter in, and then you have to insert the whole lot into its space in the scooter. It's not difficult, but it requires a bit of physical effort because it is not a smooth operation. You can do it yourself, no problem whatsoever, and it is relatively easy. What I learned about the air filter is that basically it's time to change it or to clean it when the engine starts to backfire. That has been for me the time where I discovered that the air filter was actually quite old and couldn't be cleaned anymore, so I had to replace it. So when you're asking yourself what is the right time to change the air filter, well, the manual says that you have to at least check it. I don't remember how many kilometers, but it doesn't really matter. As long as the engine does not backfire, or does not backfire too much, you can assume that the air filter is doing all right. In the moment you start to hear regular and relatively, audible backfires, then is the time to at least take it out and give it a look. Most probably, because of the way the air filter is made of paper, the chance to clean it is relatively small, so you will have probably to replace it. You can find the air filter for the Maxsym 600i online. You can also go to your garage and buy one if you want, so it's really not difficult. The only thing that is really you need to you need to have a bit of patience to reinstall the air filter as it is into its rubber mount, which you will probably see if you decide to do it yourself. The transmission oil, I replaced it twice. And I did it twice because after the first time I did it, as I probably told you, I filled it up to the notch. Basically, I couldn't care less about what Sim was saying about 330 cc into the reservoir. But then I noticed that on acceleration I was getting some squeaking from the rear. So what I did is to empty the transmission oil again. It was practically new, and to refill it to 330 cc as advised by Sim. And I noticed that the squeaking went away. So yeah, I'm not sure if that was the cause, but it's probably better if you can, instead of filling it up to the notch, just to fill it to 330, 350 cc as the manual suggests, also considering it is basically a splash mechanism. So there must be a bit of space for the lubricant to splash around and to lubricate all the various bits and pieces it needs to. That's the logical explanation I can give to that, as much as it is worth it, but no, that's just what I noticed. All right, CVT and transmission belt change. I did it myself. What can I say? It is doable. You don't need to go to the garage necessarily if you have a couple of decent hands and a bit of technical inclination. You can do it. I did it exactly here in this specific position, so you don't need to have a bridge or something or anything special to do that. So basically you need to take out this part, the whole lot. Then you need to take out this part. Under this part there is an aluminium cover. You take out the aluminium cover and you reach the drive belt, the clutch, and the variator. So it requires a bit of patience, and you have to get yourself some information. There are at least 2 or 3 YouTube videos. One of them particularly is a Russian guy who doesn't speak a word of English, but he has he has taken the Maxsym 600i apart from top to down. Unbelievable. And he has been explaining how to do that quite clearly. So I'm not going to show you how to do it. He can do it much better than me. there are a few things that you have to take into account. First of all, there is, well, these are the things I discovered. There is a pressure pin down there, somewhere there, which is a real pain to take out without breaking it, so I broke it immediately. Never mind. Then you have to remember that, let me see, yeah, so this part has to be pushed down. This part here has to be pulled out, and this part here has to be pulled like this. So there are hooks, plastic hooks, that hold this stuff together apart from the screws, and you have to remember the orientation. So here you have to pull it downwards, here you have to pull it outward, and here you have to pull it on the left side like this. In this way you don't force the plastic attachments in the wrong direction. What I also find quite complicated was the to loosen both the clutch and the variator. There are two bolts holding them in place, which with use are getting incredibly hard to screw out. So for that you will need something, and I strongly suggest you get one. If you want to do it yourself, you will have to take out those two bolts. Now, particularly the one that holds the Vario in place, it's really hard to take out, really hard. If you try to do it by hand, I am afraid you will have a really tough time and you risk to hurt yourself. At least this is what I concluded. What I did is to buy myself one of these impact wrenches. It's relatively inexpensive. I think I paid it 60 or 70 euros. It was sold to me as a non-professional piece of kit, which will last as long as it does. It's not particularly strong, or it's not particularly good, but that will enable you to take out those two bolts and actually take out the Vario and the clutch. Again, look at other videos on YouTube. There is people who has been doing this a number of times, and their videos are quite clear. I learned from them. You probably remember that I have been complaining sometime about the fact that the transmission of the Maxsym is not the smoothest transmission I ever observed in my life, and that is confirmed. I followed the advice I received from people also on YouTube who suggested to sandpaper the shoes of the clutch and possibly to clean up the rollers of the Vario and to do some of these activities, which I did. And I must say it didn't really make much of a difference. I'm sorry guys. The transmission remains a bit on the rough side. It is not as smooth as it could be. So I think altogether it is not working very much. I didn't really notice any difference. The other thing I wanted to tell you, the manual advised to replace the transmission belt after I think 16,000 kilometers or something like that. I followed the manual recommendation only to discover that the belt in my case was still pretty alright. It was by far within the tolerances. I think the maximum weight of that thing should be 8.8 centimeter and the minimum should be something like 7.2 or something like that. Mine was at 8. So it was, I could have gone on using it for quite some more time, but I bought a new one anyway, so I replaced it. Again, it's not difficult. It's something you can do it yourself. It doesn't require particular strength of technical skills. The only thing that I would like to recommend you is to look into the way you normally use the Maxsym 600i. I do a lot of highway, and I think that in a number of cases the level of consumption of material which I experience is not exactly in line with what the manual says. I could have kept my transmission belt for I think another 5,000 kilometers at least. So yeah, it's a good idea anyway. After some time, I suggest every maybe 15,000 kilometers, something like that, at least to open it and to see what is the situation inside. I must confess, when I opened mine, I found quite some dirt. The belt during the usage release dust and fragments of rubber and other stuff, which eventually remain there. So it's a good idea to clean it up, even if you don't change the belt, because you measure it and you discover, as I did, that it was still good enough. But even if you don't change it, you have the opportunity to clean it, and I think it's a good idea to take that opportunity and to clean the inside of the Variator area and the CVT area, so that all these fragments and rubbish that comes out of the belt do not interfere with the mechanism in general. One cool feature I noticed is that you can actually remove the inside of the loading area like that, and that means you can clean it. And for some of us it's quite important, because for instance I transport my my lock chain in there, and with the time it gets full of sand and rubbish, and I didn't know you can actually remove it and just brush it clean. So that was a cool feature. I was happy to learn about it. These are still the original tires. I didn't change them, but I got them checked just a couple of weeks ago by a professional. They told me they are still pretty good. They are absolutely not to be changed yet. And again, this confirms my impression. The Maxsym 609 performs in a very different way depending on the use you make of it. So I make a lot of highway, and I'm a smooth rider in general. I am not, doing sporty things or stuff. These tires have, I think, probably other 10,000 kilometers to go before needing a replacement. Both the rear one and the front one, they're still in excellent conditions. So, which is also, in a way, confirming the fact that eventually, despite the fact that the Maxsym 600i can feel a bit rough when it drives, is actually not rough on the tires. So it is a smooth ride as such. It just doesn't feel always like it is a flying carpet or something like that. You can definitely feel it is monocylindric on a CVT instead of a bicylindric with a whole gearbox around it. So yeah, you have to know about that. I'm still working on the on my self-made cushion on the back of the back box. I'm building it myself. It's coming out pretty alright. I just need to figure out a way to cover these edges, so I will have to do something here, but it's coming out alright. So after all these kilometers, my findings are still the same. The Maxsym 609 is an excellent value for money. It does everything I want, and every time I want it. It has never given a single problem of any kind. It is very, very reliable. I have been traveling last weekend basically in a torrential rain, and it really didn't give a kick, nothing at all. It's starting to get cold. We are 8 degrees now in the morning. It starts after 2 rounds, that is always did. Really, really reliable machine, very easy. Maintenance is very easy. Everything is exactly as I told you last time. Thinking about it, I came to the conclusion that this scooter is perfect for basically everything I normally do. There is only one thing that I would like to have it different on the Maxsym 609 or Max. Max does not like uneven surfaces. He doesn't like uneven surfaces. It's a road vehicle, and the road must be decently paved He managed cobblestones, he managed tram rails, he managed everything, but especially at low speed, when you start to navigate on really uneven, bubbly terrains, you feel that Max is not in his territory. He likes a flat, smooth surface, and as long as it has a flat, smooth surface, it's performing very, very well. But when you start to, to drive on gravel, cobblestones, very bad roads, yeah, I think Maxsym 609 is not really built for that. So that's something you have to take into account. If you're living in the countryside and you need to go on unpaved roads, I would strongly advise you to test the Maxsym 600i in those specific circumstances. Either because it has small wheels, or because it is balanced in a certain way, or it has certain suspensions, I don't know. But the feeling I have when I travel on uneven surfaces is I really have to keep him straight. Maybe it's me, but please check it out if you are in the situation where you really need to go countryside roads and very bad terrain. You have to check that. Just to give you another idea about how this scooter is actually keeping up, I never touched the brake oil. I never refilled it. I never did anything with it. This is really coming from the factory. Look at this. Not a single gram lost. Is exactly as it was in the beginning. I mean, this machine is really well built, guys. Although it is not the smoothest of the rides, it's well built. Also, the chassis is keeping up really nice. I didn't notice any rattling, any vibration different than what I discovered on day one. Consumptions are still more than adequate. I still have a major beef with the way the fuel gauge is working, and I still don't know exactly how much fuel is in the tank eventually. So I have to use always the trip meter, and I am keeping the 250 kilometers max range as an indication when I have to stop and refill. Instrumentation is maybe looking nice, but is not precise. And if I could change something about it, I would do it straight away. The loading capability of Max remains outstanding. Really a shame there are no two helmets fitting here for me. But on the other side, I must say, eventually you will always get to the point where you buy something like this. So it doesn't really make that difference. And I mean, I'm basically commuting for weekly trips with this thing, and I'm really happy. A lot of stuff fits in here. Something I really ever use are the compartments in the front, both the sides and the central one. I don't know why, maybe because I cannot close them, or maybe because they have a shape that doesn't make much sense. But I don't really have a use of those things. I would trade the space which is in there and to put in here, just either way. It would make a lot more sense. So talking about the loading area, you remember that I told you that in order to close the saddle, you have to give it a very nice push. Well, I discovered one way to decrease a bit the need for the hard push, which is actually to eliminate or to dismount these two things from here. Hold on. There you go. Normally, when you buy a Maxsym 609, this kind of stuff are here, which means that when you try to close the saddle, you have this thickness of rubber that is actually working against it, working against the ability to close the saddle with one click. If you take them out, the saddle close a lot easier. You still need to give it a bit of a push, but not as strong, as violently as otherwise. It doesn't really close just dropping it. Dropping the saddle doesn't normally close it, but it becomes a lot easier. So since eventually I can maintain Max by myself, I can do all the basic stuff and also the more advanced parts, including changing the transmission belt. I think I will need a garage very much. That was exactly the plan from the beginning, because if you remember, I bought this scooter with a very clear value proposition in my mind. I didn't want to have something particularly beautiful or something particularly powerful of a brand particularly known. I wanted to have something that was outstanding value for money, both in the purchase and the maintenance and everything else. And I think I fully got that. So I'm still very, very happy with this. The things I would change on Max, there aren't many really. I mean, ideally I would trade Max for a scooter which has 2 cylinders instead of 1, assuming that 2 cylinders are smoother than 1, but it is something that I would have to test, and assuming the 2 cylinder doesn't cost 5,000 euros more. That is basically the only reason why I would trade Max with something else. The weight of Max is quite substantial, but I also have a friend of mine who has a BMW, a 650 Sport and a 650 GT. Those things are even heavier, and they load a lot less and they cost a lot more. So I wouldn't go there. I'm still looking at the market for something comparable to Max or better, but I can't find anything. So I will stick with that. The only thing that I think I will need assistance with is when it is time to change the tires, which I think will be probably next springtime or next summer, maybe, because that's something I cannot do it myself. But the rest, including take out the covers and to expose the various bits and pieces, like for instance the CVT, is not really an issue. If you want to do that, strongly advise to go on YouTube. There is this Russian guy, and don't ask me how it's called. Just basically look for 600 maintenance. You'll find them. And this guy is a technician. He has really taken his 600i apart up to the last bolt, so you can observe exactly how to do everything you need to do, and he went to the point of disassembling the engine, something I don't think you're planning to do. But replacing the CVT, replacing a bulb, a light, or whatever else is, very good videos, really. So yeah, now winter is coming. I think I will have a lot of fun traveling with Max, as long as it's possible. Maybe at a certain moment we start to freeze, and I will have to stop riding for a while. But as long as weather is above zero, temperature above zero, and there is not too much wind, I will keep riding Max, and I don't expect to have anything new on that front. Max is a great machine, and I'm really happy I could find it, try it, and use it up to now with a lot of pleasure, and I still highly recommend it. All the best, and thank you very much.